to another fishing adventure, folks. It's windy. Can you hear me? It's really windy. I'm excited to try something new today that I've never tried. Oh, that was a gust of wind. Oh, the whole tackle box was open, sitting on the chair. That sucks. Yeah, I'm gonna do that later. I need to get baits in the water before I spend a half an hour picking up every little swivel out of the grass here. Okay, thankfully, you know, some of the stuff I put in its own little containers exactly for this reason. Yeah, these and these, so that's helpful a little bit at least. Yeah, so before I was so rudely interrupted by that 40-mile-an-hour wind gust, this is what I'm excited about today. Let me show you what this is. This is different hook bait than what I've ever used. And just never mind this mess. I'll clean this up later here. I gotta find my baiting needle. Okay, here's my baiting needle. So the bait I'm gonna be using here today, like I said, is something I've never used before, and is what's referred to as a cluster bait. Here's one that has 3 tiger nuts and a couple little pieces of cork there, and they're all strung together with some monofilament line. I did these up before I came here. Just got a bunch of different cluster baits here. You know, they're various sizes. This one has 4 tiger nuts and 3 corks, and I just made a kind of a variety. The purpose of the little bits of cork is to add buoyancy, and I'll explain to you why I'm doing this today as I get baited up here. I'm going to be attaching this to a regular hair rig that I usually do use here. This is a larger size hook. This is a size 2 hook. I usually use a size 4. I moved up in hook size, slightly larger hook. Same exact hook, just larger. And the way I'm going to attach these to the hair is I'm just going to puncture one of these nuggets that are on this cluster here. Just going to thread that one nugget onto the hair just like that. And I'm going to put a little bait stop in there just like I do when I'm normally fishing with tiger nuts. And then that's the rig right there. It's just a larger hook bait. It's just a cluster of tiger nuts with a little bit of cork to add some buoyancy so it'll come up off the bottom a little easier, and a bigger hook. And I'm just going to be running that side by side with what I usually fish with, which is usually 2 tiger nuts and a size 4 hook. That's what I usually fish with. And I'm going to use this big cluster bait and a larger hook on the other line, and we're going to fish them both at the same time, see what happens. Pack bait on both of these is going to be the same thing. It's just my usual stuff, mix of oats and sweet feed and cream corn and vanilla today, vanilla flavor. Now, I did not just get here. I've been here for about 5 hours now. I got here this morning and fished a session, and I caught a couple pretty nice fish, 12, something like low teens, you know, but mostly little tiny 2, 3, 4 pound carp, lots of dinks. And I published a video with a session just like that not that long ago, where I probably caught 25 to 30 little tiny fish like that. Couldn't find any big fish, and multiple people in the comments suggested using big honking boilies, 26 millimeter boilies or something like that, and that'll single out the big fish and keep me from catching little fish all day long. And while I'm not going to go out and buy any big boilies, this cluster bait basically serves the same purpose. This is something that I've seen guys in South Africa do when they think they can single out big fish using bigger baits. So I'm going to give it a try today. Personally, I'm not really a believer in the big bait, big fish thing when it comes to carp. You can catch a giant carp on a single kernel of corn. They eat little bits all day long. That's how they get so big. I mean, and before I cast this out, like, I don't know how many millimeters wide that thing is, but like a 10-pound carp could easily eat that big chunky bait too. I don't know, it's not going to stop a 10-pound carp from eating that bait, I don't think. I say I don't think so because I've never actually tried this before, so we shall see. But my guess is that this big bait is not going to equal big fish, but I'm willing to try it because catching dink after dink after dink after dink is not really why I'm here. Boom. That's about 15 feet of water there. That's the exact same spot where I caught like a 12, 13 pound mirror carp about 3-4 hours ago. But it is also the same spot where I caught about 6 or 7 tiny carp and probably about 4 or 5 tiny catfish 3-4 hours ago. And this other one here with my usual setup is going to go out pretty close. Obviously not going to cast them right on top of each other, but same distance, pretty close to each other, same depth. It is about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, early October. Sun goes down at 7:30. It's dark at 8. So, you know, I've got just a few hours here. I'm going to do a sunset session, see if these big baits will bring out some big carp. In the meantime, I guess I will do this. Yay. I got a bite on the regular rod, regular bait. It's only been 10 minutes. Feels like a small catfish, just reeling them in here. This is what I've been dealing with here. This is what I'm trying to prevent here is when I'm doing this, when I'm catching these and de-hooking these and rebaiting, my bait is not out there for a big carp to find. I'm wasting a lot of time unhooking catfish. I just don't feel like it's a productive way to target big carp. So I'm just trying something new today. All right, 1-0 on the usual bait. It's kind of a relief because I was a little concerned that I was going to get an instant bite, dink bite on the big cluster bait. That didn't happen, so that's good. This is the second bite on the usual bait. Appears to be another dink. Just so you know, I have not thrown out any like chumming. I've not done any pre-baiting or chumming. I've just been fishing here with my usual pack bait set up here. There's another catfish on the usual bait. It's only been about 15 minutes and this is the second catfish on this. Nothing on the big cluster bait. I think I forgot to mention, these cluster baits are vanilla flavored. They're soaking in vanilla. The same as just the regular tiger nut, so same flavor too. I just casted this usual bait right back out and another fish, another catfish. 2 minutes. Oh, I think this is a carp actually. Come here. It's actually a pretty nice fish. Not really what I would consider a dink at all. 5 to 7 pounds, to be my guess. Maybe on the closer to the 7 size. But yeah, that's a pretty nice fish. I'm not obsessed with size of fish. You know that. If you watch my videos, you know that. But sometimes you just want to catch a big fish. When you go to a place like this, where it's considerable amount of effort, long ways away from home, you want to get that big fish you're after and avoid the dinks if possible. This is one of those times. It's keeping me busy though. So I'm kind of losing track already. Is that the 3rd or the 4th fish on the usual bait and nothing on the cluster bait? All right, well, I'm gonna reel in this cluster bait and take a look at it and see, maybe it got stolen. Got like 4 fish on that usual bait and this one's just sitting there untouched, so I'll take a look at it here. It's been about half an hour or so. Well, it's still there. Still there, untouched. Looks exactly like it's supposed to. Yeah, let me lay it in the water there for you. And I don't know if you're going to be able to see it or not, but let me go put it in the bucket and show you. It doesn't really float. It's just kind of neutrally buoyant, maybe a little bit more than neutrally buoyant. It just hangs out. It's not enough to lift the hook up. It just hangs about 1 inch above the pack bait. And I didn't really want that. I didn't want it to be floating at all. I think I put a little too much cork there. I'm going to trim off a little bit of cork. Because I absolutely did not want a pop-up presentation. I have never had very good luck with pop-ups. I don't want the pop-up, so I'm going to trim off some of that cork. I want this to lay on the bottom. The cork was intended to just add a little bit of buoyancy so that it would just come up off the bottom a little bit easier because it's such a chunk of a bait. Let's try that. Yeah, I'll just just lay this in my hand again and lower it down so we can see. All right, it doesn't float at all now. It sits on the bottom there. That's what I want. Getting a bite on the usual again already. Uh-oh, this feels like it might be something better. I'm glad I picked up on it because I was tempted to just leave it alone and go rebait that cluster bait with the pack bait. This feels like it might be something net worthy here. Yeah, this is a pretty decent fish actually. It's been a while. It's been a long fight on this fish. This wind, and this fish has got a lot of energy still. Yeah, as you can see, the algae is still going on here in October. Stupid hot weather all the way into October. Finally started to cool off this week. Come on in here. Come on in. Yes. Yeah, pretty nice fish on the usual bait. Look at him stick his dorsal fin up like that. Love it. Oh. This one might be pushing 10 pounds here. Looking pretty good. Got to get that cluster bait back out. Either way, no matter how this test goes, it's things are looking up. Things are looking up. See you later. All right, so yeah, I've got that cluster bait. Trimmed down the cork a little bit so it'll just lay on the bottom. I definitely didn't want a pop-up presentation. I just want a little bit of buoyancy. Credit to the YouTube channel where I got this idea. It's Tip Top Fishing, I believe is the YouTube name. He's in South Africa, does mostly carp fishing, I think. All right, yeah, I think maybe that flotation, the too much cork on there might have been a good reason why I didn't get a bite there. Probably not good. Never had much luck with pop-ups. Another bite on the usual bait. It's only been about 5 minutes since I recasted out that cluster bait with the trimmed up cork. Yeah, larger catfish. Tell you one thing, that cluster bait is sure doing a good job of repelling the dinks, but I don't know. Seems like it might be repelling all fish. On the usual bait. Yeah, another little kitty cat. Okay. Well, that is like half a dozen or more. I kind of lost count of how many fish I caught on the usual bait and nothing on the cluster. So it seems as though initially that the cluster baits definitely do repel the little fish, or at least they don't eat it. But do they repel the big fish as well? I don't know. Before I tie this one on, I'm gonna just test its flotation there. And it does float, so I need to trim that a little bit. Let's shave off some of that cork. How about now? All right, now it sinks. Yeah, it sinks. Okay, that's what I want. So I am camping here tonight, and I need to set up my tent, and I needed like 10 minutes of not catching dinks to be able to set up my tent. And so I'm gonna put a cluster bait on this other one as well, and just leave that here while I get my tent set up, see what happens. It seems pretty apparent that the cluster bait does keep the small fish from hooking up, but the real question is, does it do the same for the big fish? It's hard to know. It's hard to know. I really need a camera down there and try this with a camera sometime. In the past, I've used my homemade boilies. And I've made really huge ones that are, I don't know, I never measured them, but they were huge, probably bigger than what this is. And you know, a 5-pound carp will suck those up no problem. So I don't know, but I'm gonna keep trying it because I'm not getting anywhere. Just catching dinks after dinks after dinks is just not it's not what I'm here to do. And like I said before, I'm not really a believer in there's any way to specifically target big carp, and I'm sure somebody will have, you know, people will have things to say about what I'm doing here, about how I'm doing it wrong, and if I would have done it this way, then it would have worked, or blah blah blah. That's possible. It's possible, but I'm not really a believer in that concept, and just in general. Have you ever tried to set up a tent, an 8-person tent by yourself in 30-mile-an-hour wind? I do not recommend it. That took me 45 minutes to do that. I almost gave up. and said, screw it, I'm sleeping in the truck. But I got it done. I guess I felt the need to show the wind who's boss. Thought I'd show you my tent set up because I know people like to see this kind of stuff. Pretty simple. Cot, fold up cot. This is a sleeping pad that goes on the cot. It's great for cold weather. It's insulating. Sleeping bag, cooler with food and drink in there. Extra sleeping bag because it's going to get down in the 40s tonight. Little table for stuff. There's some clothes and some stuff. Battery bank where I can charge my stuff while I sleep. That's it. Simple camp setup. Don't need much. And both of these cluster baits have gone untouched the whole time I've been... Oh, never mind. This one's a slack line right here. I've been looking up at these every few minutes waiting for a bite. This one's slack. Yeah, fish on. Okay. First fish on the cluster bait. This is exciting. First fish on the cluster bait. Is it going to be a dink or a... Oh, it's not a dink. It's not a dink. It's right here by the shore too. It swam in. I think it might be another mirror. What? No, I'm seeing things. It's not a mirror. It's a good fish though. Get in here. How long have you been hooked? Okay. I think I saw the cluster bait get thrown off after the fish went into the net. Oh yeah, it's in the net. The cluster bait is in the net. Nice. Yeah, pretty nice fish. I think maybe the reason I thought it was a mirror just because it's so light color, but it has some kind of funky stuff going on right there, right here. And maybe I saw that and thought it was a mirror, but not a dink. First fish on the cluster bait. Really pale fish. Really pale. Interesting looking fish. He ate the cluster bait. I would say this fish is about 10 pounds, something like that. But the dinks have stayed away for sure. I didn't get any bites for like the whole time I was setting up that tent. So I guess that's the desired result, right? That's why I started doing that. I didn't want to be catching dinks every 5 minutes. I wanted just the larger fish. That's what I've got, but gosh, that seems too good to be true, doesn't it? Keep fishing, back in the water. Oh, by the way, here's the cluster bait. It's in the net. I'll reuse it. Yeah, that had 4 tiger nuts and a couple little pieces of cork. And by comparison, I mean, this 10 pound fish, 8, 9, 10 pound fish, I can easily fit in that fish's mouth, no problem. I would think the same would be true with 5 pound carp, but oh man, he's out of here. We'll see what the results are. Keep on fishing. Yeah, and again, these are just I just used like 10 pound mono and just string them all onto a baiting needle, a few at a time, and then run a line through it, and it's just make a loop of line and then just tie it. I'll link to the Tip Top Fishing video where he does a detailed explanation of how he does his. I think I did mine a little bit simpler way, but it's not complicated. And then, like I said, I'm just gonna run the baiting needle through one of the particles right there, and then just put it on the hair. I think he had a little bit more sophisticated way to tie that onto the hair rig, but that seems to work for me right there. This other one, since I have to retie it, I'm just going back to the usual bait with this one, just the 2 tiger nuts and the smaller hook. And I'm going to fish them side by side again, like I've been doing here this afternoon. I don't want to fish both of them with cluster baits anymore, just on the off chance that a bait like that would be a turn off for most fish. Maybe that one fish that I caught on there is just kind of an oddball or something. I still want to catch fish, and obviously giants are caught on tiny little hook baits like this. I just casted this single, usual bait out 2 minutes ago. Yeah, another pretty small fish on the usual bait, 5 to 7 pounds, something like that. Again, I haven't been counting, but I've caught a lot of fish on the smaller bait. I think I've caught one on the cluster. The little fish are definitely not getting hooked up on the cluster bait, that's for sure. This is getting pretty interesting. You know, one variable I haven't manipulated is the cluster bait has always been the one on the right, single usual bait, one on the left. They're not very far apart, maybe 10-15 yards apart, but who knows, maybe there's some kind of underwater feature down there that might make a difference. So I'm going to switch it up. I'm going to put the cluster bait over on the left and single usual bait over on the right, just to see if that changes anything. So all the fish except for that one on the cluster bait have came on the rod on the left. Oh, I'm getting a bite. This is on the cluster bait, the one on the left, right? Left, right, left. Yes, hooked up on the cluster bait on the one on the left. It hasn't been very long since I switched the positions of the rods. Maybe 10 minutes. The sun glare is atrocious. My sunglasses are up by my chair. Wish I had them on my face right now. Pretty sure this is a carp based on how it's just swimming from side to side a lot, and it hasn't given up yet. Usually catfish would have given up by now, unless it's a big catfish. Oh man, I think what I've got here is a small carp on the cluster bait. That's what I've got. Get in here. Get in here, you little rascal. Okay. And the cluster bait did get thrown off at some point during that fight. Yeah, small fish on the big bait. That's the opposite of the desired outcome. I'm gonna look in my little container of cluster baits and see if there's any bigger ones. I think that might have been one of the bigger ones that I made that had like 5 tiger nuts and some cork with it. But as you can see, this is not a big fish. Has a not a big mouth. 3-4 pound fish. Hold them close to me here, gives you a better perspective on the size. If I hold them up here, it looks a lot bigger. But yeah, 3-4 pound fish on the big fish bait. Let's see various cluster baits here. Let me find the biggest one I can find here. That one's not very big. I don't think I made any like ridiculous big ones. I think 5. That one's got 4. That one's got 4. The cork really adds some bulk to it. This one's got 5, and it's got kind of a round shape. Maybe I'll use that. I've had people express concern about fishing with cork, like it's going to hurt the fish or something. It's not going to hurt the fish. It's not toxic or anything, and it'll pass through the fish's system just like all the other things that we use for hook baits. I don't know why you don't freak out about plastic corn. Okay, yeah, that sinks. Cork is a natural substance. It's the bark of the cork tree. It's just a piece of bark. There it is. That's the biggest cluster that I got. I'm gonna wing it out there. Cork is the bark of the cork tree, and tiger nuts are nuts of a tiger. All natural. 5 minutes. 5 minutes. Another bite on the usual small bait. Kind of tempted to just put another cluster bait on this one because I'm getting a little worn out from getting up every 10 minutes and bringing in a small fish and rebaiting and recasting and resetting, and just it adds up over the hours. I think I might put on a cluster bait. It seems to be obvious that I've caught way less fish with the cluster bait, and really the only reason why I continue to have this smaller bait out there is just because I don't know if the cluster bait would also repel the larger fish. So that's the reason why I keep leaving this smaller bait out, but it just keeps getting picked up by small fish. Let go of my baits. Give them back. Give them. Oh, he got the tiger nuts. That's fine. This is a pretty good sized catfish. That mouth is definitely big enough to eat that cluster bait if you wanted to. That's a big channel cat. Really wish I could see what's going on there by that cluster bait and see, you know, maybe fish are coming up and scarfing on the pack bait, but just don't care to bother with that big weird clump there. That's possible. I mean, carp, regardless of the size of the carp, they are used to eating tiny morsels of food. They just go around scooping up thousands and thousands of little tiny morsels all day long. And I don't think they really are into eating big chunks. So yeah, I've decided not to switch both over to the cluster. I'm going to keep this just little 2 tiger nut small little rig out there because I want to catch fish today. So I've caught 3 more dinks since you last saw me on the regular small bait. Decided to switch this one over to a cluster, so I'm gonna have both clusters out there. I need to have about 20 minutes of not fighting dinks just to eat my dinner. So I'm gonna cast this out there, and maybe I can eat my dinner for 15 minutes or 20 minutes or so. And I don't know if I'm going to switch back to the small bait or not. We'll see. Based on what's happened today, you know, it's pretty conclusive that I catch less fish with those cluster baits. Definitely. I've only caught 1 fish with that, and I've caught probably 15 with the regular baits that I usually use. So, yeah. It's been 2 minutes. I was just opening the container for my dinner. This is the cluster bait that I just casted out. Maybe I need to pick a bigger cluster, or maybe I need to get some of those 94 millimeter boilies like the people in the comments suggested, huh? Yeah, this is a pretty small catfish. As the sun is setting, I really only expect the catfish bite to increase. We'll see. Maybe I'll put on a larger cluster bait. Yeah, I don't want to. Rather not eat my dinner in the dark if I can help it. I want to get my dinner eaten before the sun goes down. And on top of that, I'm pretty hungry and I'm getting a little crabby because of that. You know, the hangry. Yeah, I need some food. Okay, here's the dinner I keep talking about. That's chicken, grilled chicken, and then the stuff underneath is eggplant with peppers from my garden and tomato sauce. It's like an eggplants from my garden too. It's like eggplant stew. Ah, I got a bite. I didn't even get 1 bite. I'm taking a bite. I'm taking two bites. Just casted this out. Well, it got away or whatever it was. Good, at least I don't have to handle them and get my hands all dirty. I forgot to mention the eggplant stew. It's spicy too. Put some cayenne pepper in there, and so it's spicy eggplant stew, grilled chickens. Ooh, it's delicious. I'm glad I got a couple of bites of it there. Yeah, normally this is served hot with some naan or a piece of toast or something, but I'm camping. I'm just eating it cold. Well, I'm getting a bite here. Getting a drop back bite here on a big cluster bait. Swimming at me. I got something on a cluster bait. Sun is down. It's almost dark. I was thinking about switching out my baits, both of them, going back to my normal 2 tiger nuts because I'm afraid I might be missing out on the giants that might be swimming around out there. Yeah, look at this here. Little bitty fish. That bait barely fits in its mouth. Kind of. It could if it wanted to, but it got hooked trying to eat it. I don't think that small fish are fazed by these big baits. They will try to eat them, and if anything, it kind of seems like it might repel fish. If it repels the small fish, it probably repels the big ones too. The big ones, even though they're big and they have big mouths, they are used to eating tiny little morsels of food. And I'm switching both. Before it gets completely black out here, I'm gonna switch both of my rigs back to my usual smaller baits with 2 tiger nuts, and see if I can maybe hook into something big here before bedtime. Yeah. This is why I hate fishing in the dark. One of the many reasons. At least in this fall weather, the bugs aren't too bad. There's not that many bugs. Alright, goodbye cluster bait. That was a fun little experiment. Done with that. Baiting back up with the usual, just a smaller morsel, 2 tiger nuts on the hair, and I'm going to reel my other one in and do the same. It's getting dark, but it's too early to call it a night. It's only like 7:30. It gets dark so early as winter coming, and the days keep getting shorter. Like tomorrow is going to be 3 minutes shorter than today. Pretty soon it'll be starting to get dark at 4:30. That really stinks. So yeah, I have a fish, and there's not much I can tell you about it. It feels like it might be, I don't know. It's dark, I can't see anything. I know you can't see anything except for my hands and this fishing reel. So I'm going to pick it back up once I get whatever it is in the net. And we'll see what it is. It's pulling some drag here, that's nice. Yeah, practicing my night fishing skills here. A little 5-pounder. 2 tiger nuts. So it's 9 o'clock, hour and a half has gone by, no more bites. Probably the main takeaway that I'm going to get from today's little experiment with those cluster baits is that it definitely produced less fish overall. I caught way more fish with my usual baits than I did with the cluster baits. However, there was no size differentiation there. I caught small fish on the cluster baits as well. I don't think the cluster baits or larger baits will deter small fish. Even a 5-pound carp has a big enough mouth to get a pretty large bait in there if it wanted to. And my main concern with this is that although it did seem to deter some smaller carp because I caught less fish with the clusters, I'm afraid it may also deter the big fish. Like I mentioned, the big fish are used to eating little morsels too, and they might be scared away or just, you know, turned off by some big chunky thing. I don't think they eat much for big chunks. You know, they'll eat snails and stuff. Even the snails that they eat are much smaller than that big cluster bait that I was throwing out there. So this is a fun little experiment. Try something new. I am still not a believer that there is such a thing as a big fish bait. I just don't think that's a thing. Believe whatever you want though. You saw what happened today. Thanks for watching, I appreciate it. See you on the next one.